Let me call the meeting of the Board of Aldermen. If you would, let's stand and pledge allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we're very pleased and appreciate Pastor Richard White, who's pastor at Christ Community Church in Montreat, is going to offer our invocation this evening. Richard, thank you. And you might want to,
Step up in here.
just so that you could be on the camera.
On camera. Well, Ms. Mayor and Alderman and those of you who serve this town, thank you for the privilege of being here. I apologize for my inattention last month, and thank you for the privilege to pray again here. Let's pray. Our gracious Father in heaven, every good thing we enjoy in life is a gift from your hand. And we thank you for the good gift of this town. Black Mountain is our home. And we bless you for the beauty of this place, the peace of our town, the joy of relationships, the prosperity of business, and these leaders who serve us. As our town officials take up the work tonight that falls to them to oversee, give them unity of purpose and heart to serve the needs of our community that we may flourish as a town. Reveal to them the things that are hidden that need to be seen and addressed. Grant them a right understanding and wisdom to discern a way forward. And bless their work, Lord, with peace. We are all stewards of what we have, and we're mindful that someday we will all give an account to you for how we use the good gifts that you've given us, even the good gift of life and service in this community. Who is sufficient for these things in the grand scope of that? So, Lord, meet us also with grace and mercy. And in all our living, leading, and working in this town, we ask that you, the giver of all good and perfect gifts, be honored and glorified. In the name of your Son, the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
God bless you.
You be seated, and it's my honor to, along with Chief Freeman, thank and recognize two of our officers who are retiring. And I'll start with Stacy Ayers. And let me read this resolution, Stacy. Come on up, that'd be great. With the Chief, it'd be super. Whereas Stacy Ayers has served the town of Black Mountain, the Black Mountain Police Department, and the citizens of Black Mountain for over 27 years, and whereas General Statute 20-187.2 provides that retiring members of municipal law enforcement agencies may receive, at the time of their retirement, the badge worn or carried by them during their service with the municipality, and whereas GS 20-187.2 further provides that the governing body of the municipal law enforcement agency may, in its discretion, award to a retiring member the service sidearm of such retiring member. And whereas Stacy Ayers has served as a member of the Town of Black Mountain Police Department in the capacity of police officer, police sergeant, and police lieutenant during his 27-plus year career, and is retiring from the Town of Black Mountain Police Department effective October 1, 2020, whereas Stacy Ayers should be recognized for his tireless commitment to his town and community. We recognize his 27-plus years of service and thank you for a job well done. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Aldermen of the Town of Black Mountain, North Carolina, as follows. The town manager or his designee, Chief Raymond, is hereby authorized in accordance with the provisions of GS 20-1872 to transfer to Stacy Ayers the badge worn by him during his service with the Town of Black Mountain Police Department and his service sidearm, a Glock 9mm caliber Model 17, serial number KLY 776, duly adopted this 12th day of October 2020. Congratulations, Stacy. We're very, very appreciative. And Rob, if you would come up. This is a resolution of the Board of Aldermen of the Town of Black Mountain, North Carolina, awarding to retiring Police Major Rob Austin his badge and service sidearm. Whereas Rob Austin has served the Town of Black Mountain, the Black Mountain Police Department, Black Mountain Police Department, and the citizens of Black Mountain for over 12 years. And whereas General Statute 20-187.2 provides that retiring members of municipal law enforcement agencies may receive, at the time of their retirement, the badge worn or carried by them during their service with the municipality. And whereas General Statute 20-187.2 further provides that the governing body of the municipal law enforcement agency may, in its discretion, award to a retiring member the service sidearm of such retiring member. And whereas Rob Austin has served as a member of the Town of Black Mountain Police Department in the capacity of police officer, police sergeant, police lieutenant, and police major during his 12-plus year career, and is retiring from the Town of Black Mountain Police Department effective on November 1, 2020. And whereas Rob Austin should be recognized for his tireless commitment to his town and community, we recognize his 12-plus years of service and thank you for a job well done, Rob. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Aldermen of the Town of Black Mountain, North Carolina, as follows: that the town manager or his designee, Chief Freeman, is hereby authorized in accordance with the provisions of GS 20-187.2 to transfer to Rob Austin the badge worn by him during his service with the Town of Black Mountain Police Department and his service sidearm, a Glock 9mm caliber Model 17 serial number KLY 777, duly adopted this 12th day of October 2020. Congratulations, Rob. We appreciate it. Do we have some citizen comments, Josh?
No, sir.
And we have a communication from Mr. Jamie Matthews, Annual Streets and Parks Report. Welcome, Jamie. Good to see you.
First, good evening, Mayor and Board. I think I need to congratulate y'all. I've not seen you since the pandemic started, so I've not got to officially congratulate the new sitting Alderwoman, Miss Willett, and Alderman Patilla, and Mayor Harris. So I appreciate the opportunity to present before you tonight. That's right. So yeah, I'm a little off kilter tonight. So I'll do my best to present the facts to you. And so this report is for 2019 in streets and parks. And first of all, to start off under capital projects, I made a misprint on the last report in 2018. I don't know how I looked at it wrong, but when I started getting these facts together, in 2018 we actually paved Central Avenue, Hillcrest Avenue, North Cherokee, Avena Street. We done some patching. So I had that listed again. So in 2019, we actually done Bartlett Street, Buckeye Street, Burnett Street, and Ridge Street. And we done all these for $150,000. So if you know where these streets are and the mileage of them and stuff, that sort of gives you an idea of what we can get paid for that kind of money. And we done 36 roads, and we budgeted $25,000. We done street striping. We done 36 roads this year, and probably done that many or more in 2020, which will be on the next report, for about the same amount of money. We purchased a new truck, a new plow in the Capitol for we budgeted $54,000, and so we got a brand new truck, brand new plow. We've got the gov deal, some old equipment, which will put money back into the general budget. So we look forward to doing that also. And we budgeted $20,000 for sidewalk repair and replacement. And actually, we built the sidewalk in front of Public Works and Parks building at 304 Black Mountain Avenue with those funds. Actually, it didn't take all those funds, so we had some funding left over to do some other projects around town. So that worked out really good to get those good quotes on building that sidewalk and getting that complete. On maintenance, we done our typical asphalt patching that we do every year. And we usually do between 48 and 90 tons a year. We've done just a little over 40 something this year, which, you know, we're not a paving crew, so we have to do all this stuff by hand. So that's a lot of asphalt, but the guys get it done, and they're very good. So they do a good job at that. Culvert replacement and ditching. We really focused on stormwater because of all the new stuff that's coming down the pipe with our MS4 permitting and stuff. So we've started a new thing where we actually record all the tonnage that we take out of ditches, that we take out of culverts, pipes we put in. Every little detail is put into a report that we generated in-house, and now we give it to Jessica in planning where she can report this stuff for our permitting purposes. So every month that gets reported throughout the year for stormwater reporting. Tree removals, that's something that's just inevitable. I've come to find out in this town that we do more tree removals. Of course, it's not live trees. You know, if they're iffy, we get arborists to look at it to make sure that we're not taking down a tree that don't need to be took down. But unfortunately, we still have a lot of dead trees. It's safety issues around town that we have removed. Our hemlock inoculation that we do every year, and we've done for years now, we've done 121 trees in 2019, and we're currently doing that now. It happens in the fall, usually around October is the best time. And we usually do about 1,000 trees, and they're done every 3 years, so they're on a rotating cycle. Our snow removal last year, I was very pleased. So if people love snow, I apologize. In this business, we tend not to like it as good. But we did get a contract with BH Granting last year, and we did have to have them on site one time last year, and I was very pleased with how that turned out. They were very spot on, very thorough, and have the right equipment. So if we have snow, we still have that contract going into this new year, and so I'm very pleased about that. And then just other general maintenance that we've done in streets is mowing, street trimming, stuff that we do every year that has to be done during the summertime. So in our parks maintenance, in greenway maintenance, we spent some money on talking about trees. We took some dead limbs and stuff out, but I'll talk more about that in 2020 for safety issues where trees had to be climbed and really topped and take dead limbs out of to make trees healthy and keep people from getting hurt. So we worked a lot on that. The Lake Tomahawk forebay area and stream restoration, that's something that me and Josh have sort of been working on for probably the past year with Wildlands Engineering, and we just met with them last week. And so we reached out to them today, and so that the area in the forebay of the lake is going to be totally reconstructed to where we can get to it better and dredge it better with the machinery that we have. And it also dredge that creek, widen it up. It'll just be healthier all the way around, and it will look better and serve a better purpose when complete. And they should be starting on that maybe this month. So if you see the valve running at the lake, it was originally cut on because of the storms coming this weekend, but we're going to continue to run it because we're going to have to drain the lake again for this project to happen. The good thing about that is I know it looks bad when it's drained, but once we shut that valve off, because it being so shallow, it fills back pretty quickly. So that's coming up very quick. Our Lake Tomahawk Dam inspections and repairs. Back a couple years ago, we had what they call a seepage at the toe of the dam, which is, come to find out, looking into this and talking to engineers and stuff, it is very common in earthen dams across this country, and so common that ours is actually dried up now, but it still have to engineer it. There still has to be a tow drain put down at the bottom of it. And because of a trout moratorium going on between October and March now, it's looked like that work's going to be put off until sometime this spring. So it's still on the agenda to be done. It just seems like it's one of those things, one of those projects where it just takes a little more time. On the Part F grant, which Josh Henderson had worked on, which this grant, has been going on for a long time. Our part in it is we built the parking lot, the extra parking lot for part of the grant over there, and we ended up hauling in about 287 tons of of base rock material for the foundation of that parking lot, and then 485 tons of ABC stone. So we ended up spending a little over $13,000, which the money was part of that grant. So, but that parking lot's complete, so we got that part of that Part F grant done. The rest of parks maintenance, pretty common stuff. We had our pool inspections, our field repairs. I know we had some flooding back in 19, but it really didn't destroy the fields like it had in the past, just a lot of fencing and stuff that we had to repair. And then we ended up painting the pool in 2019, and we had got with Beth and really done a refurbishment over there and painted the whole pool inside and out, so it really turned out good. Our total work orders, you can get a 3-year view of the work orders, and you can see that they've went up a little bit, not much, and that's usually where they stay. And for the new alderman, just if you don't know, and I've explained this in the past, that it's really seasonable. It depends on what kind of work's going on, whether those go up or down. In a mowing season, you tend to have more. In the summertime, it just seems like you generate more work orders related to the fall. In the fall, that would be less just because of a different style of work, and bigger projects don't generate as many work orders. So to break that down a little bit, if you look at the percentage of work orders that's completed, I try to break it down for you. 58% of those was town property work orders. There was at 1,192 of those was town property. 2,027 total. 179 of those was ditches and culverts, and then you can just see as you go down how that's broke down. But if you look at the next page, I broke down the 58% into town property work orders. So you can see out of those work orders, 423 of those is downtown restrooms, and I just wanted to give you an idea of how much work goes into those restrooms. I mean, there's a lot of cleaning, and for whatever reason, they tend to be damaged a lot, and on the weekends and stuff. So we do a lot to keep those things clean and sanitary. Especially since the pandemic's come back, we've got a cleaning ritual, and crews that go in there more times than they normally would to make sure that stuff is sanitary. And then it goes on down to Parks Miscellaneous, where we had 249, and that's where Roger Burris comes in, and he does the rounds of the morning and cleans up the parks and empties trash, and then any other general maintenance that he has to do. And then it goes right on down to town property, like town hall, police department, where we keep the upkeep on all of our public buildings, whether it's painting or putting new roofs on or electrical or light fixtures. It's just a broad spectrum of stuff that gets done. But anyway, it sort of gives you an idea of how our work order system's broke down. And a lot of the miscellaneous stuff, our stuff is coded, and these codes throw up these specific areas and what's done. So if it's outside of those codes, it automatically kicks it into the miscellaneous slot. So during the process, I know we've had some promotions and stuff in our department, and Cody Woodard was promoted to crew supervisor. Chris Sloan is now our current operations manager. And then Tasha, of course, was promoted to a supervisor over sanitation. And I just wanted to recognize them because they've really done a great job, and they've really took the job to the next level. And I'm very pleased with the job that they're doing and the way the department is going. I didn't really mention anything about sanitation because it'd always been contracted, and that was stuff that we sort of talked about during the budget. But I would just like to give you a little bit of statistics about how things are going on sanitation tonight, real brief, before the report's over, just stuff that I jotted down. And so when we took off into this, we had talked to 3 other towns, and staff had gathered just an unbelievable amount of information and put a lot of time and effort into this stuff. But as you know, and as we predicted going into this, just like opening a new business, they would be things we would have to work out and work on, and that's what we're doing, and it's getting better. But the first 2 weeks is exactly what we expected. I know when we pulled tax records to mail out stuff to citizens to get them the right information, what they needed, well, we didn't think about the people that rented. So what happened was it went to the owners of these houses and not the renters. So that's where a lot of the misstops come from when we dug into it. So we wrote letters. We tried to get those addresses, and as we come in, we put those in the mail that day. So, and then we had one truck failure last week where a hydraulic line had blowed, and that's totally out of our control. As just stuff like that happens, it's nature of the beast with this type of business, and it put us behind. So they stayed out and worked till about 8:30 that night, and then got called up the next day. So other than that, the only calls that we've had mostly has been about the limits and just the changes that we made. But I wanted to touch on that just a little bit. Back when we sent surveys out, I think Angela Reese had actually sent them out. We had got 501 responses, and I just want to talk about a little bit about how these come about for these limits for a couple of reasons. Out of those 501 responses, 265 of those responses said they only had 0 to 2 bags of household waste. 171 said they had 3 to 4 bags, 59 5 to 6, and only 6 people out of 500 said they had 6+ bags. So 53% of those people said they had 0 to 2 bags. So we took that into effect, and then we also cross-referenced that with what we had learned from Waste Pro about how many people, how many trucks, the amount of sanitation we would be picking up. So we come up with, and I think this is a little confusing to people too, you can have 2 cans or 6 bags. So it means if you can get 8 bags in those 2 cans, we don't give you a size on the cans, and the reason being is because those trucks have hydraulic lift on the back. So if it's the right can, then the guys don't even have to lift it, the truck will lift it for them. But 6 bags or 2 cans. So I know Monday I pulled some tonnage for you, and 4 guys and 2 trucks picked up 17 tons of sanitation alone. That don't include brush, white goods, or anything bulk. That's just sanitation. So 17 tons. Monday is our slowest day. Wednesday's our busiest day. So I didn't have the tickets for Wednesday, or I would have really liked to give you those numbers. But I know moving forward, we hired a good crew. They're experienced. They come from it. They have worked over on weekends. I know I had an employee come in and work yesterday on Sunday just to get caught up on some stuff. And they actually took their work home and laid out their own routes for these. They wrote them out at home and come in, and it's just been really a team effort with staff, and I want to thank you, Josh. You've been part of that, and I would thank the others if they were here. But it's been a total staff effort from within, and I can't begin to tell you guys and ladies how proud I am of this department and how well it's going. And I know when Tasha first started taking calls and we predicted it, she was getting 190 calls a day. She would take a lunch and go to lunch for an hour and come back, and she would have 40 to 67 voicemails to return calls. So I seen a lot of stuff on social media and a lot of voicemails saying, I can't get in touch with anybody, nobody won't return my call. We know even before the sanitation come on board, we're still busy. We figured that we took 4,000 calls in one of these meetings one time in a month. That's a lot of calls. So I will say, to any public that's watching this or listening, if you will leave a voicemail, I promise you will get a call back. You will get a call. It may not be the same day you call, but you will get a call. Or an email. We respond to emails really good. But because we wanted to combat that and provide a better service and just through a learning curve, we actually talked to our IT department and set the phones up to now where if it gets to that point again, then we've got somebody in the Parks Department that's willing to help with those calls. So we're going to transfer some of those calls to them. But I'm proud to say today that today was a normal day. So the phone call, so everything is, the first 2 weeks were rough because we started on an odd week, and then with the mailing system and everybody learning the new limits and stuff. So now that they're learning, and this was really our first, what I can say, normal week of running trash, it's been normal. So that's a good sign. I'm totally convinced it's going to get better. But staff's done a good job. They've done a great job, and I'm totally happy with the way it's going. And so limits and loose trash. Loose trash, if you have loose trash in the bottom of the cans or anything to that effect, that is not part of the policy, and we sent that out. It needs to be bagged because this stuff cannot be blowing out in the road or anything like that. And so we can't have no loose materials. And also, one thing I was going to touch on about the 17 tons, when we set these limits, here was one of the main reasons we set them other than the survey. So it is an hour drive to the landfill and an hour drive back, so that's 2 hours. And you have to be inside the landfill by 4:30. So these guys start at 7 in the morning, and they got to be inside the substation by 4:30. So they got 1,200 stops a day. That's what it averages to. So the substation is on Brevard Road, which is 35 minutes away, and then whatever weight they have to get in. So they're taking full trucks compacted. What we're getting right now, we hit the nail on the head with what we figured out, because if we took any more waste outside of our limits, then that means they're going to have to dump twice a day instead of one, and then there's no way to make those time constraints. So the only other thing we could do is just think of other options moving forward if we wanted to change those limits. But other than that, I'm totally happy with the direction that it's going, and I can only see it getting better. And so if anybody's got any questions about it, I'd be more than glad to answer any. But other than that, that's our report for 2019 in Streets and Parks.
Thank you, Jamie. Board members, any questions?
This is Jennifer Willett. Just so to clarify, 6 bags or 2 cans. If those 2 cans have 8 bags of trash, they will go.
They will go, yes,
Perfect.
ma'am. 2 cans or 6 bags, and there's no limit on what size cans those are.
I would also like to say I think you guys are doing a great job. It's a wonderful service, and I appreciate all the time and effort you guys have put into it.
Thank you very much.
Jamie, back on, give you a chance to talk about something besides solid waste pickup. Look, back on the lake and the 4-bay
Yes.
maintenance, how long do you think that will take? Got to drain the lake, and then it's got to set a little while?
Well, the lake has to be, by state standards, has to be a foot every 24 hours. So you're probably looking right now at maybe 6 or 7 days to get it down from this point. And then as far as the construction itself, and Josh, you may want to tune in on this.
So they have to be done with construction by the end of the year because the trap moratorium starts January.
Yes.
So they have told us they do not have an issue finishing before the end of the year.
So we get it done by the end.
So
Gotta
by
get it
the,
done by the
so
end
by
of
the end of the year, and it's really a good time going in, the winter time, as far as, not affecting as much of the lake as what it normally would in the summer. But I think it'll be great when it's done. But I think they mentioned maybe starting maybe on the 19th. Did I hear that right, Josh?
Next week or the week after, yes.
Yeah. So.
And the trout moratorium is what's keeping you from the other repair on the earthen dam over there. What
Yes.
exactly is the trout moratorium?
So whether you believe it or not, for a trout moratorium, they say that native trout spawn during those times. I don't know that you could convince me that the Swannanoa River has a native trout population, but for whatever reason,
They consider it trout
they
waters.
consider it trout waters, so that's why.
Yeah, they even consider Flat Creek trout waters, which is something I didn't know until I done the Army Corps permits when we repaired the greenway up there, and I found out.
So this isn't new. There's always been
That's
one?
correct. It's-
I don't
Yeah.
think I was aware there was one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
Actually, Flat Creek does have native trout.
yeah, it
Yes,
sure
it does.
does. It sure does.
I can speak from experience.
Great. Any other questions for Jamie? Jamie, we appreciate you and join with you in our pride and appreciation for your staff and the hard work. And in particular, that's a daunting task.
It is.
To
It's a
take
tough
on the
business.
solid waste pickup, it's a daunting task. And we're going to be better off for it because it's a tough thing, but it's better that we've got it and we can control it. I think in the long
is.
haul, I think it was a decision we all
And
didn't
it's a
enjoy
great
having
service,
to
and it's a
make.
great service, when we all set out into this, it was, to save the taxpayers dollars.
Yep.
And it's a lot of money, and, I was reading some comments, and, I guess the best word for it, I seen one of your comments and something I was reading about, grace. If people just have a little grace,
There you go.
we'll get there.
There you go.
But it's not gonna happen overnight. But if they will just give us a little grace, it'll get better, I promise you
That's
that.
a good word. That's very true. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jamie. We
Jamie,
appreciate you,
I'm sorry,
your
this is
staff.
Tim Raines, real quick. Jamie, what was the size of that can that you said hydraulic, that it can lift it? How many gallons?
Most of the time, they're 96-gallon cans,
96
and they usually got the metal bar in. Now, if they do make the 96-gallon ones that don't have the metal bar, and that's fine if they don't, we can still empty them. But, depending on how heavy they are, it's nice if it's got that bar because it takes a lot of back-breaking load off the guy that's doing it. So,
If someone wanted to buy the trash can that they should buy, the big one, the 96, is there a particular, because there may be some direction on that, maybe you get out in a week or two or three where somebody could know what type of can to buy?
we can sure get that information and maybe put it on our website.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, get it on our Facebook page or something.
Yeah,
and,
I think Fred and Ty, Fred
Yeah.
at the Valley Echo and Ty at the
Yeah.
Black Mountain News, they'd be glad to help. But that'd be a good thing going forward because over a period of time, you'd have a little more uniformity
Absolutely.
in
I
cans
agree.
and so forth.
I agree. And that was another, thought process behind it too. I mean, really, the more cans you get, the more uniformity you have, and it gives the homeowner a little more option about maybe getting rid of a couple extra bags if they need to,
That's right.
and so.
Great. Thank you, Jamie. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, Josh, the consent agenda.
All right. Consent agenda, item 5A is your adoption of minutes. This is working. This would be to adopt the minutes of September 14th, 2020 regular session meeting and the closed session meeting. 5B and C, we talked about already, but they are in here for a motion to adopt. This will be the resolution to award badge and service weapon to Police Sergeant Stacy Ayers, Resolution R-20-07. And 5C is resolution to award badge and service weapon to Police Major Rob Austin, resolution number R-20-08. 5D is Black Mountain Police Department forfeiture funds. So in the amount of $88,000, Chief Freeman came to Kurt and I, and this year with COVID, we didn't have the ability to fund or to budget any type of really things that we really needed. Police vehicles, I think, is something that we typically budget for, and I know we've went back and forth as far as staff about the potential for going into a contract with Enterprise, and I think that's still something that we're going to look at going forward when we can get our heads above COVID-19 one day. But this is money that is forfeiture money, drug seizures, things of that nature, and we are allowed to spend this money on equipment in the police department, and this would be for 2 Dodge Durangos. 5E is a call for public hearing to rezone 134 Sunset Drive, 6 Vance Avenue, and 99999 Vance Drive from TR4 Town Residential to UR8 Urban Residential. So this property, I think, is around 11 acres or so. It is adjacent to Interstate 40. This did go through the planning board, I think kind of a split vote, if I recall. And what they are requesting is it's currently zoned TR4, which is 4 units an acre, residentially zoned property, and to rezone it to UR8, which is urban residential, at 8 units an acre. 5F is a call for public hearing for text amendments to road standards. This isn't adding anything new. What we are doing is taking some information from one place and adding it to another place to make sure that our language is consistent. And this would be referencing our standards and details manual, which would include the NCDOT subdivision manual, the fire code, North Carolina Fire Code, and the North Carolina Fire Code Appendix D. 5G, lastly, call for public hearing for text amendments to water improvements. Currently, the way this reads in our code is we put stipulations on property outside of city limits. We aren't allowed to do that since we do not have an extraterritorial jurisdiction. So we just want to clean that up and make that change. And that will be your consent agenda A through G.
Thank you. Any questions for Josh? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
This is Maggie Tuttle. I so move.
Very good. Any other discussion? If not, we'll start our roll call vote, and we'll just start with Ms. Tuttle.
Okay. Maggie Tuttle, aye.
Jennifer Willett, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Archie Portillo, aye.
Ryan Stone, aye.
Thank you. All right. Do we have any citizen comments tonight, Josh?
The only citizen comment you have will be read in the public hearing.
Okay, very good. No unfinished business, no new business. And so we have 3 public hearings. The first being text amendments to the intents and purposes of the zoning districts. Josh, do you, oh, here she is. Welcome.
Have we opened the public
So
hearing?
if you want to, we can either open it, or I think you can go ahead and actually give a synopsis of it and then open it.
Yeah, so go right ahead.
All right. So the first item for tonight is our intents and purposes section, only affecting NUM 8 and HB 8 districts. We found that we had some language in there that sounded regulatory in nature, and this is in fact really meant to be an introductory paragraph to the ordinance. And not only did it sound regulatory, the things that it mentioned, or at least some of them, are things that we're not even allowed to actually regulate. And so for the sake of clarity and making things easier for the public to read, we've decided to strike that language and just make things a bit more concise.
Very good. So I would entertain a motion from the board that we open the public hearing for ordinance 0-20-12, right? That might be O-20.12 for amendments to zoning district intents and purposes.
This is Jennifer Willett. I make that motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, go right ahead and start the roll call, Jennifer.
Jennifer Willett, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Archie Portillo, aye.
Ryan Stone, aye.
Thank you. Do we have any members of the public that wish to?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me. I guess you get to just chop them off at the end, I suppose is what I had in mind. Forgive me. I'm sorry, Maggie.
It's quite all right. Maggie Tuttle, aye.
Thank you. I guess that is 5, isn't it? All right, thank you. Did we have any members of the public that wanted to speak or offer comment?
Nothing online.
Very good. So then I believe I need a motion to close the public hearing.
Maggie Tuttle, so move.
Very good. Thank you, Maggie. Go right ahead and start.
Maggie Tuttle, aye.
Jennifer Willett, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Archie Portillo, aye.
Ryan Stone, aye.
Thank you. All right, board, you have before you the public hearing for amendments to zoning district intents and purposes, O-20.12.
Mr. Mayor, this is Ryan Stone. I would make a motion to adopt ordinance O-20-12 as presented by staff.
Thank you. Very good. Any discussion on that? If not, Ryan, go right ahead and start the vote.
Ryan Stone, aye.
Maggie Tuttle, aye.
Jennifer Willett, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Archie Portillo, aye.
Thank you. I believe it carries. Do I have any more work to do on this? Do we have the no consistency
good on
thing or
that.
anything?
It doesn't require.
Very good. Thank you. So we're on to our second public hearing. That is to rezone 324 North Fork Road from CR1 to TR4 on the west side of the property and from CR1 to SR2.
It should probably say east.
Oh, yeah, we need another side, don't
Yeah.
we? East side of the property. Is that good? So, all right. Go right ahead, Jessica.
All right, so this one's a little bit interesting. It is a spot zone, so you're aware that that has additional scrutiny attached to it than a traditional rezoning application. Sam Decker submitted a rezoning application to rezone his property located at 324 North Fork Road, which is currently zoned CR1. He wanted to go to UR8. The property consists of 16 acres and has a stream and an MSD sewer easement, which lets you know it's fairly encumbered and you're probably not going to get 8 units per acre out of it if it were built out. The greatest difference between the existing and the requested zoning district is primarily that density level. The planning board heard the request at the August 24th meeting, and there was a lot of discussion about this. And there was some concern about making such a leap from CR1 to the UR8 district. So the initial motion from the planning board was to rezone the entire parcel from CR1 to TR4, where this was a tied vote 3-3. A second motion was made to rezone North Fork Road from North Fork Road to the middle of the creek on the west side, and from CR1 to TR4, and then rezone that east side from CR1 to SR2. And that motion passed 5-1. So we'll note that even, that their request is still a spot, so their idea of a split zone is still a spot zone, because it is separated by one parcel from a UR8 district.
Sorry, let me ask a question. Their concern, it was a spot zone?
There was some concern in being uncomfortable with the spot zone, but the greatest concern was the leap from the CR1 level of density to the UR8.
So I guess I'm not quite tracking the concern. I mean, it's a change, but the question is it a reasonable change or not? I suppose,
I think that the board, by forming their motion to what they would consider like a happy medium, they bumped it up to SR2 and TR4, noting some slope issues on the back with the SR2. They thought that was more reasonable.
Questions? Yeah, go right ahead, Archie.
This is Archie Patillo. So the reason it wasn't all TR4 and the other half was SR2 is because of the slope?
That was one of the considerations, yes. Generally, the discussion of planning board was that TR4 and SR2 was a little more compatible with the existing area.
Jessica, and this is Ryan Stone, you referenced that it abuts a UR8 district. In the map that's presented in the agenda packet, are we referring to like the Walker Cove neighborhood there? And is that just a pre-existing use because that is developed, but it's now zoned CR1, or?
Yes, so there are areas over in this area that are developed at a greater density than CR1,
Right.
but they were brought into the town at CR1.
Brought into the town at CR1, but they were more dense than CR1 when they were brought into the
Yes, sir.
town?
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that.
We
There's
can
not a
see
whole
that.
lot of CR1. I apologize if you will. We've seen that before, especially in the settings.
Right.
There's been a lot of those that have been zoned CR1. And I think they came in at a later time. I think they were annexed in.
Right.
And a lot of those properties actually are smaller than CR1, but that's what they're zoned.
If you remember too, when we did a group rezoning not terribly long ago, and what we in essence did in that process was that an area was brought in at a density, at a base district that did not align with how it was already developed. And so we took something to a district that more closely aligned. So we do see densities on both sides of this property that are much greater than CR1.
Right. I think that's kind of what
Yeah.
Ron was probably getting at. And I suppose, what would, you would do that when when that area was annexed? I guess the intent was.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
That's okay.
Just because we were having a kind of an in-depth discussion about it, would it be appropriate if I go ahead and make a motion to open the public hearing for this? Because Jessica was just giving us a synopsis to start with.
Yeah, probably would be. It's
Well, Mr. Mayor, I would make that motion, please.
Very good, very good. Any other discussion? If not, go ahead and start the roll call, Ryan.
Ryan Stone, aye.
Archie Patillo, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Jennifer Willett, aye.
Maggie Tuttle, aye.
Thank you. All right, so we're now in the public hearing. Do we have any public comments?
You do have one I'll read. This is from the petitioner or property owner, Mr. Sam Decker. And it states, I am requesting the town board rezone my entire property to TR4. I voluntarily came into the town with the understanding that it would be zoned how I wanted it to be. In 2010, without notifying me, they changed it to CR1. I didn't find this out until last year. I would like the entire property to be zoned TR4 so I or my children can sell the property for the highest value someday. Sam Decker.
Thank you. Any other comments?
That's it.
Very good,
You have some? No, that's it.
very good. So then I believe I need to entertain a motion that we close the public hearing.
So moved, Maggie Tuttle.
Very good. Thank you, Maggie. And any other discussion? Let's vote on it. Go ahead, right ahead, Maggie.
Maggie Tuttle, aye.
Jennifer Willett, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Archie Patillo, aye.
Ryan Stone, aye.
Thank you. All right, so questions, comments, or discussion?
Jessica, I have a question. This is Tim Raines. So the reason that the east side was not TR4 also was just because of the slope of that piece of property? And how many acres is on the east side versus the west side?
We do not have a survey with a split to determine the acreage. But the idea, I think, largely had to do with, it's flatter toward the road, and that it is slightly sloped on the, gain some slope on the back. So larger lots, they're more comfortable with.
Okay.
This is Jennifer Willett. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if everything was zoned TR4 like Mr. Decker requested, any future development that is done still has to come to the planning board and be approved.
Only if it rises to that scale of development. If it were one house, no, it would not.
Right, so if it was one house, but if they wanted, like
They were gonna
somebody
do
bought,
a major subdivision or something like that, or any number of types of developments would have to be considered by staff and at least reviewed by planning board. And so TR4 was their original compromise from the original request, and that was a tied vote. So it was 3-3 for TR4 for the whole parcel. And they went back to the drawing board, and that's when the split request was developed.
Right. Well, I obviously don't have a vote, but I would offer my support for Mr. Decker's request. I think this, the debate, as I understood it, and the work at the planning board was, it was the second vote wasn't terribly close, but the first one that was more salient was. And so I think it enables the board to make, it gives you guidance. The board always needs to do what the board thinks is the best thing. But I think the guidance from the planning board is such that I think it frees the board to make the decision you want to make, if you care to, whatever motion and direction you want to take. But I think I am inclined to support Mr. Decker's request.
Mr. Mayor, and I respect your comments. This is Ryan Stone. I do, however, disagree with that assessment. Looking at this zoning district, I'm, for one, am uncomfortable having amongst all encompassed by CR1 these parcels split into two different zoning districts. I think 10 years ago, as they were doing this plan, that board intended for this to be a limited use area to prevent runoff, where we have spent a lot of money into the creek that runs through the golf course. I think that, increasing the density would be irresponsible in that respect. And while I respect Mr. Decker's position, and it's always uncomfortable to tell people what they can and can't do with their property, in this case, I think it stands, just from looking at the zoning map and ease of use, to keep this at CR1.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, this is Tim Raines. Is it common practice to change zoning without informing the property owner?
That was when now, this was many years before my time, but that was when the whole town zoning map was reworked. And the noticing requirements are very different. You do not mail individual notices to property owners, but you take out a large ad in the newspaper and you post signs prominent places in town.
Was there any record of when he bought the property that the town told him he could zone it however?
I'll have to jump in there.
Yeah, I don't-
Even if they did, the town has no power to bind future boards as to actions concerning zoning or any other activity. So if somebody made that promise, it was a promise the town cannot make.
Thank you.
Questions, comments?
Well, Mr. Mayor, if no one has any additional comments, I would make a motion to deny the rezoning request Z-O-20-04.
And thank you, Mr. Stone. And let me ask you, though, if we deny it, then it goes back, I mean, nothing
It
changes.
continues at
And
CR.
he is at CR.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
Stays
He'll stay
it
put.
stays, yeah.
Okay. All right, we have a motion on the floor.
Say that again, repeat what you said at the end of it.
Maybe Ron,
What were
or
you saying,
Ron,
Ron?
you.
Sure. So if we reject the zoning request, he's not harmed from what his current uses are as of today, but he is prevented from the increased density of either the SR2 or the TR4 development on his property.
So that means it stays at
It stays as is.
At CR.
CR1?
Yep.
And that is we have a motion on the floor, so, but you're right, to make sure, you got any
Yeah,
other
make
discussion, questions on the motion on the floor? All right, we're ready to vote. Go right ahead, Ryan.
Ryan Stone, aye.
Maggie Tuttle, no.
Jennifer Willett, no.
Tim Raines, no.
Archie Portillo, no.
Okay, so, and thank you, Ryan, for your
Yeah.
motion. So, Ryan's motion did not pass, meaning that we're still considering the, Mr. Decker's request. Not so much Mr. Decker's request, we're considering that, but we're considering the planning board's recommendation to us.
Do you know the actual acreage? Well, I think we talked about this, on the east side. There's a total of what, 16
Yes, ma'am.
acres?
Looking at it, it looks like about 2/3.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know for
It's
sure, but
2/3 is on the east side.
I
Is
would
that the
guess
way-
just by looking at the map.
Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
the way I'm looking at it too. And Jessica, you said the planning board voted, they were in a tie as to whether to go TR4 for the whole
Yes, ma'am. The first motion from the planning board was to go to TR4, not UR8, as the application stated.
Right.
And they tied 3-3 on doing the whole parcel for TR4. And then they went back into to discussion. And that's where the split idea came.
Okay.
I don't know if it helps inform your discussion. This came up a little bit in planning board. We did recently pass the stream buffer ordinance. So any additional density or type of development on the parcel, that buffer will be platted and recorded. So there is.
That does
That
protect
does-
the stream.
Mhm.
Okay. That does help. Is there anything in place for like stormwater runoff for development? Is that what that is?
Well, that applies to all things. It's a 30-foot off the top of bank. Depending on the intensity of the development, it may be reduced to 15 feet. The post-construction stormwater ordinance that we're all so familiar with, it may come into play depending on the intensity of development that occurs. We do see single-family residences that are occasionally subject to that because of the size or area disturbed. But almost, I can't think of a subdivision application that would not be subject to that.
Okay.
At this point, apparently everybody's of a different mind. Does anybody have a motion they'd like to put on the floor so that we can see where this board's going? Guess not.
Well, this is Maggie Tuttle, and I'm sitting here thinking about this, and I'm familiar with this property. And I'm thinking about the slope area across the creek, the stream there. Doesn't seem all that, compared to some of the other properties around here, doesn't seem all that steep. And if Mr. Decker, it's his property, and if he wants to go with TR4 for the whole property, then I'm okay with that.
Care to make a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion that the whole 16 acres be zoned TR4.
Okay, you have a motion on the floor that, to rezone all to TR4, all 16 acres.
We need to probably address it. Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
This is a spot zoning, as was discussed earlier.
Uh-huh.
And when you have a spot zoning, there's a higher degree of reasonableness that you have to address. And in your packet, if not, make sure you get copies. The staff has put together sort of a guide as to things to look at for reasonableness. If, before you take a vote, if the board wants to take a look at those, just to make sure they're comfortable, because that's going to be part of your consistency statement and your finding of reasonableness. The planning board, after straining for a while, has learned how to use this, but it's a pretty handy means in a spot zoning to make sure that you get into the record your reasons for finding it's reasonable.
Good, thank you. So, how do we get,
Josh has those, if we wants to read those off, and the board
think that'd be good.
Get paid some happy to do so.
Good thing.
So there's four statements that I'll read. Statement A, the overall size of the tract of land proposed for the rezoning is reasonable compared to the size of the zoning district in which the subject property is located. Item B, the proposed rezoning is consistent with the comprehensive plan or elements thereof. C, the impact to the adjacent property owners and surrounding community is reasonable, and the benefits of the zoning shall outweigh any potential inconveniences or harm to the community. And D, the allowed uses within the proposed zoning district are similar or comparable to the permitted uses as currently zoned.
That first standard of reasonableness is whether the rezoned district is reasonable in comparison to the surrounding properties. I think a big thing to look at, this is not a spot zoning of an acre or two, it is 16 acres. It's compared, and that's something this board can look at. And you might look at the total CR1 and still think it's just a dot in the zoning district. It would be unreasonable, but that's one of the things that you look at. This board wants to find that that's reasonable.
And so our minutes will show that we've considered these
Yes.
and that the board understands them.
And if anybody wants to verbalize it, that would be even more marvelous.
And if it helps, the planning board found the vision statement number 7 from the comprehensive plan supported the additional standards for the spot zoning. And that is that's housing in neighborhoods. We see safe, secure, quiet neighborhoods in every part of our community with well-tended yards and gardens and small parks close at hand. Our town has chosen to focus on bringing the town together with a network of pedestrian bicycle streets, and our neighborhoods display a variety of housing types and values, including attractive affordable housing in many forms, neighborhood parks included in the design and development of new neighborhoods from the onset.
And the planning board did support that in accordance with this.
Yes.
Was there any communication from any neighbors, any other property owners near this?
That is a good question. It's been 2 months and I'm trying to remember.
If I recall from that hearing, there was no public showed up to complain that this was going to devalue their property or create any problems. There was just no evidence of that. I don't know if you can find there's evidence that it was not, but there was nobody offering evidence that it was.
We did have, I think now I can recall, one conversation of some folks who live across the street who enjoyed looking at the green space and asked that it stay green space. Because they enjoy looking at that from their dining room.
Archie.
This is Archie Patilla. I was wondering the same thing. Have we received any communication from the other property owners adjacent to his?
That was the biggest comment I can recall.
Brian, do you feel that these standards are not being met?
I do.
Well, after hearing those comments, I think I would like to retract my motion. Can I do that?
Can she do that, or do we need to vote on it?
Or do we just need to vote and then?
No vote's been called. I think she'll withdraw
Well,
the motion.
okay.
Very good. Motion withdrawn.
Okay.
So we're back without a motion now.
Pardon?
Said we're back without a motion.
Yes.
I'm gonna throw this out there for the board. You know, we're happy if there are some underlying questions, not that I've seen any yet, but if there are some underlying questions or you want something else from staff, maybe that we haven't shared or something else that we can give you, we're happy to do that if you want to, continue this. I'm not pushing for you to continue it, but I'm happy to get more information if you need it.
Well, what I think I'd encourage the board, if you think you are not informed enough and you need to, you need more information, then we could ask that this be, ask that this be tabled. Isn't that right, Mr. Sneed?
It would save you renoticing if you just continued it to the next meeting.
Yeah.
Continue this item on the agenda until the next meeting.
Right.
So we could do that if you feel like you need more information. If you feel like you just need to go ahead and make a decision, that's up to you, but you do have that option. And we need a motion for that to happen, don't we, Mr. Sneed?
Yes.
This is Tim Raines. I make a motion that we continue this to the next meeting.
Very good, thank you. Motion's on the table. Go right ahead, Tim, start the vote.
Tim Raines, aye.
Jennifer?
Jennifer Willett, aye.
Maggie Tuttle, aye.
Ryan Stone, aye.
Archie Patillo, aye.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's wise, and I'd encourage everybody to reach out to Jennifer, to Josh, and we'll look at this next month. So now we have our third public hearing, and it is text amendments and clarifying prohibited uses.
Yes. Currently, the land use code states that any uses specifically not listed in the table of permitted uses are prohibited. And in 2015, we had some new case law that did not allow us to do that. That basically said you should word your permitted uses in broad categories to try to catch things. And if something is brought to you that does not fit neatly, you should try to come to the closest thing in there. You cannot have a blanket statement like that. So we are just removing that language. And that's it.
You got any questions? Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Maggie Tuttle, so moved.
Very good, thank you. Any discussion on that? If not, Maggie, you can just start the voting.
Maggie Tuttle, aye.
Jennifer Willett, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Archie Patillo, aye.
Ryan Stone, aye.
Very good. Any comments from the public?
No, sir.
Very good. Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Archie Patillo, so moved.
Very good. Any discussion? Archie, go right ahead and start the voting.
Archie Patillo, aye.
Ryan?
Ryan Stone, aye.
Maggie Tuttle, aye.
Jennifer Willett, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Thank you. All right, so is there any discussion or any questions, comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
This is Jennifer Willett. I make a motion to adopt as written. That'll work.
Ordinance
The ordinance, yes.
020-11.
020-11.
Very good, thank you, Jennifer. Any questions or comments? If not, Jennifer, go ahead and start the voting.
Jennifer Willett, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Archie Patillo, aye.
Ryan Stone, aye.
Maggie Tuttle, aye.
Thank you. I think we're done. All right. Josh, you have some communications for us?
I do have some.
Sorry, I skipped over Ron. Ron, do you have anything?
I don't have anything in particular. I will report that a couple of meetings back, the board authorized me to proceed with the actions against the Watson building. I will confess to no progress on that point, but I will pull them to the top of the burner and see if we can't get him going. As the leaves fall, he'll be sticking out there and be more obvious.
Thanks.
Sure. I've got just a few things, and I won't go into too much depth on the first one. As far, we try to give you updates on the Greenway progress, and I think we're at a point now where we really need to, instead of me giving you an update, we probably need to do like a little small workshop. So I'm gonna have Savannah send out some dates, maybe an email form for the board to give us an idea. But the reason for this, we've been working for months now with DOT and the engineering firm. We've run into some issues back in behind the storage units and the Christian Friends of Korea?
Mm-hmm.
There's an issue back there where we've got a bridge location that's proposed, and not to get into too many details here, but we can't get a no-rise situation. So when they're doing their flood modeling, they are unable to come up with a situation where the water doesn't rise. So what that means for us is we either need to find a different route or we need to buy property, is what that boils down to. Because you can't have a rise on the property, the federal government's not going to allow us to do that. We'd have to buy that property and make it our own. So that with some other things, I think the connection between the community garden and Veterans Park that goes under I-40 is technically not a legal connection. We found that out by speaking with DOT. So whenever that was done, how many ever years ago, I don't know that the correct process was followed. I'm not sure what happened, but
if that's the question, come back to me, because Clevenger's, when he sold those properties and gave up the easement, he reserved an easement to cross underneath that. Clevenger on both sides at the time. There is an easement and a right to use those box tunnels.
So yeah, so we'll talk to DOT. I think the issue is us using it for a greenway. I'm not sure, but anyway, more to come on that one. And next, we've got, we want to go ahead and issue a stormwater survey to the citizenry. I know we've talked, maybe not at length, but multiple times about our stormwater requirements and having to do much more than we've ever had to do because of, well, the federal government and the state are now, I guess, just making it a little tougher on towns, and we're having to do things that we maybe once didn't have to do. So we want to send out a survey to folks to kind of get some ideas from the public on how they feel about it. So we want to get that going. You may have already seen this, but the Chamber is not doing a Christmas parade this year, so there will not be parade or Holly Jolly, but they are working on something alternatively, which I'll save that for the Chamber to kind of announce. But they're looking at doing some decorating, getting people involved, decorating their houses, decorating businesses, and putting some prizes to it. So I think it'll be real neat to do that. Sanitation we touched on. I don't think any of us expected a truck to go down in a week and a half in, but I think this just makes it that much more important for us to think about the future, I guess, faster than maybe we thought we needed to, or at least I thought I needed to. So I have talked with Waste Pro about the potential for an emergency contract, and they are working some numbers for me now on that. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I will get back to you with that. And he did give, Mr. Chip Jingles with Waste Pro did give me a couple numbers to call for some folks that do rent trucks at times, and so folks that do sell trucks at a cheaper, reduced cost, used trucks. So I'll do my research on that, and I'll bring something back before this board. And for a little bit of good news, we found out today, our finance officer let me know that our August sales tax is up 4% from last year.
Well,
So I don't know that I know I didn't expect that to be the case, but I am happy
that's good news.
that we are up 4% from last year's numbers. So
Really good news.
that is all from me.
It's good news. Any member of the board have anything they wish to share with the public?
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the Beautification Committee for all the hard work they did in decorating the town for the fall and Halloween, and getting everything at Town Square and the entrances looking nice for everybody. It was nice to see, as the rain finally stopped, people getting out and enjoying those late Sunday and then also into today. So just want to give those folks a big shout out for that. And just to remind people that early voting starts this Thursday, the 15th, over at the library. And for those that wish to vote by mail, they have until the 27th to request their ballot. So please vote, please participate. We need you to.
Very good, thank you, absolutely. It's a good word. I don't really have anything except just to offer my appreciation to Officer Austin and Ayers, and that's you know, our folks who put themselves in danger to do their jobs for us. It's just a special thing. It's just very, very special to have them here tonight. And so we certainly wish God's good blessing on those folks, as both Rob and Stacy, as they move on to some different parts of their lives and doing different things. But we appreciate them very much. I'd like to ask that we have a closed session under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, little a6, for personnel matters.
Do we need a motion to go into closed session?
You do.
Maggie Tuttle, I so move.
And to go ahead and start the voting, Maggie.
Maggie Tuttle, aye.
Jennifer Willett, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Archie Patillo, aye.
Ryan Stone, aye.
Thank you. I guess the meeting's not adjourned quite yet, is it?